The world of the rich and famous often appears glamorous, but behind the bright lights and endless cameras lies a longing for freedom. For Barron Trump, the youngest child of one of the most well-known families in the world, life has always been a delicate balance between privilege and pressure. Growing up in the public eye, Barron learned early on that privacy is a luxury not easily afforded. Every move he made was watched, analyzed, and sometimes even criticized. Yet, behind his composed and reserved demeanor, there was a young man yearning for a moment of normalcy, a life untouched by fame, even if just for a little while. That longing grew stronger when he met her. She was nothing like the world he knew. She wasn't from a political family or a high-profile background. Instead, she was charming, intelligent, and refreshingly ordinary in the most extraordinary way. She had a spark that drew him in, and a sense of freedom that he found irresistible. She did not care about the headlines or the limelight. To her, Barron wasn't the son of a president. He was simply Barron, a boy with dreams, fears, and a heart longing for adventure. Their connection grew quietly, away from prying eyes. Together, they dreamed of escaping the constraints of their worlds, just the two of them, away from the flashing cameras and constant scrutiny. She often teased him about his invisible chains, the ever-present security, and the unspoken rules of being a Trump. "What if we just disappeared for a while?" she would say with a mischievous grin. At first, it seemed impossible. How could he, the son of a man whose name was recognized worldwide, ever truly vanish? But the idea stayed with him, growing into something more than a fleeting thought. It became a plan, a daring, secretive mission to carve out a piece of the world where they could just be themselves. The excitement of the unknown was intoxicating. Together, they began to plot their escape. Late at night, when the world was asleep, they whispered about distant places and hidden paths. She brought her creativity and bold ideas, while Barron used his sharp intellect and knowledge of technology to figure out how they could avoid detection. Every detail had to be perfect. They couldn't afford any mistakes. Disguises, fake names, private flights, and obscure destinations, everything was carefully considered. The more they planned, the more real it felt. For Barron, it wasn't just about getting away, it was about reclaiming a part of himself that had always been overshadowed by his family's legacy. As the day of their secret getaway approached, the anticipation was electric. Could they pull it off? Would they manage to escape the relentless gaze of the media and the watchful eyes of his security team? The stakes were high, but the reward was worth it. A chance to live, even if briefly, without the weight of expectations. This wasn't just a trip, it was a rebellion, a declaration that even under the heaviest spotlight, a young man could find his way to freedom. The adventure was just beginning, and neither of them could predict where it would lead. Barron Trump had made up his mind. The idea of a secret getaway had gone from a passing thought to an all-consuming plan. But this wasn't just about slipping out unnoticed. It was a full-fledged mission, one that required strategy, precision, and a little help. For Barron, the stakes were incredibly high. Not only did he have to outsmart the ever-present media and paparazzi, but he also had to avoid alerting his own security team, whose job was to ensure he never went anywhere without them knowing. Sitting in his room late at night, Barron sketched out the first steps of his escape plan. He couldn't do it alone. After some thought, he decided to confide in a close friend, someone he trusted completely. This friend wasn't just loyal, they were resourceful. Together, they began piecing together what would soon become a master plan. The first step was to choose a destination. It couldn't be a place too famous or crowded. They needed somewhere quiet, off the radar, but still exciting enough to make the risk worth it. After hours of searching, They settled on a small, remote island that wasn't well known, but offered the privacy and beauty they wanted. It was perfect. Next, they tackled the problem of transportation. Barron knew he couldn't simply book a commercial flight, too many eyes, too much risk. A private jet was an option, but even that came with challenges. Every move would need to be untraceable. His friend suggested using a smaller, lesser-known charter service that didn't ask too many questions. Barron also came up with the idea of using a false identity. They would create fake names, and he'd use his tech skills to ensure their bookings couldn't be linked back to him. Disguises were another critical piece of the puzzle. Barron and his girlfriend would need to blend in completely, something he wasn't used to doing. Baseball caps, sunglasses, and casual clothes were a start, but they had to go further. His girlfriend joked about dyeing her hair, while Barron considered growing a beard or cutting his hair short. They practiced different looks and even walked around their neighborhood to see if anyone noticed them. Despite the excitement, there was tension in the air. Barron's security team was sharp. They would notice if anything seemed off. To avoid suspicion, he had to act like everything was normal. His friend took on the task of coordinating the finer details, from making sure their luggage wouldn't raise alarms to planning their route to the airport. Every step had to be seamless. As the day of their departure neared, the pressure mounted. One small mistake could ruin everything. Barron could feel his heart racing whenever he thought about it. But alongside the nerves was a deep sense of determination. For the first time, he felt like he was taking control of his life, even if just for a short while. Their plan was bold, risky, and full of unknowns, but that was what made it exciting. Barron wasn't just planning a trip, he was planning his first real taste of freedom. The night was cool and quiet, perfect for an escape. Barron Trump glanced at his watch as the minutes ticked by. This was at the moment he had been planning for weeks. His girlfriend stood beside him, her excitement barely contained behind her calm demeanor. Both were dressed inconspicuously, their disguises carefully chosen to help them blend in. Barron wore a loose hoodie and jeans, a baseball cap pulled low over his face. She had opted for a pair of oversized sunglasses, a scarf wrapped around her hair, and a plain black jacket. To anyone else, they looked like just another young couple. The first leg of their journey began in an unmarked car, driven by Barron's trusted friend, who had been instrumental in orchestrating the escape. They avoided major roads, taking back streets to stay under the radar. Every turn brought a fresh wave of tension. What if someone recognized them? What if the security team realized he was gone too soon? But as the city lights faded behind them, their confidence grew. They were on their way. The plan was to reach a small, private airstrip located far from the public eye. The chartered plane was already waiting for them, its pilot handpicked to ensure discretion. As they approached the airstrip, Barron's heart raced. The wide open space felt exposed, vulnerable. But there was no time to dwell on the fear. They hurried onto the plane, the engines already humming softly. Within minutes, they were airborne, the glittering city below growing smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. For a while, it felt like they had succeeded. Barron and his girlfriend exchanged a triumphant smile, their hands brushing briefly as they settled into their seats. The plane ride was smooth, and they allowed themselves to relax, even laugh a little. But the thrill was short-lived. Trouble struck as they landed at a regional airport to switch to their next mode of transport, a car ride to the coast, followed by a boat that would take them to their final destination. As they stepped off the plane, a shadowy figure in the distance caught Barron's eye. He froze for a second, then quickly turned away, whispering to his girlfriend to keep walking. It was a paparazzo, someone clearly staking out the small airport. Barron's cat and it was a paparazzo, someone clearly staking out the small airport. Barron's cap and her scarf suddenly felt insufficient. The man didn't seem to recognize them, but the threat was enough to send their nerves into overdrive. Quickly, they adjusted the plan. Instead of heading to the arranged car, they slipped into a small hangar, where Barron's friend managed to secure a last-minute alternative, a nondescript SUV parked just outside. They piled in, keeping their heads low, and sped off into the night. But the challenges weren't over. Midway through the drive, Barron's phone buzzed a message from one of his security team members. They had noticed his absence and were starting to ask questions. He turned the phone off, his jaw tightening. There was no turning back now. As they finally reached the coast, the sight of the waiting boat brought a rush of relief. The sea stretched out before them, vast and open, promising freedom. They boarded quickly, the engine roaring to life as the boat sped toward the horizon. For the first time, Barron allowed himself to breathe deeply. They weren't safe yet, but they were closer than ever. The adventure had truly begun, and there was no telling what lay ahead. The soft hum of the boat's engine faded as they approached the shore of a secluded island. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. Barron Trump stepped onto the sandy beach, taking in the serene beauty around him. It was everything they had hoped for, a place untouched by the chaos of the world they had left behind. His girlfriend followed close behind, her eyes lighting up as she took in the clear waters and lush greenery. For the first time in weeks, they felt a profound sense of freedom. The island was small and private, the perfect hideaway. Their temporary home was a cozy beachfront cabin tucked away from sight. It wasn't extravagant, but that's what made it special. The simplicity of the setting gave them a chance to unwind and connect without distractions. Days passed in blissful quiet, filled with long walks on the beach, dips in the crystal-clear water, and shared meals under the stars. For once, they could laugh and talk without worrying about who might be watching. As they explored the island, Barron found himself opening up in ways he never had before. Under the shade of palm trees, he shared stories of his childhood in the public eye, the weight of expectations, and the constant feeling of being observed. "It's like you're never truly alone," he admitted, his voice tinged with a mix of frustration and sadness. His girlfriend listened intently, her hand resting gently on his. She had always admired his strength, but seeing his vulnerability made her feel even closer to him. In return, she shared her own fears. While their time together felt like a dream, she couldn't help but wonder about the future. "What happens when we go back?" she asked softly. "Can we keep this, or does it all disappear when reality sets in?" Barron didn't have a clear answer, but he promised her one thing. They would fight to hold on to what they had, no matter how difficult it might be. Their days on the island were fleeting, but every moment was cherished. It was a sanctuary, a rare escape from the pressures of the outside world. For Barron and his girlfriend, it wasn't just a getaway. It was a reminder of what they were willing to risk for the chance to be themselves together. The peaceful days on the island felt too good to be true, and they were. The trouble began with a single, seemingly harmless act. While wandering along the shoreline one morning, Barron's girlfriend couldn't resist taking a photo of the stunning view. Golden sands, azure waters, and palm trees swaying gently in the breeze. Without thinking, she posted the photo to her private social media account, captioning it simply, "Paradise Found." She had only a handful of followers, all close friends she trusted. But the internet has a way of connecting dots faster than anyone expects. Within hours, someone noticed the unique coastline in the background and guessed the location. A subtle detail, a distinctive rock formation in the water, led an eagle-eyed stranger to pinpoint the island. It wasn't long before whispers began circulating online. Could Barron Trump be hiding out there? Barron noticed the shift almost immediately. His phone, which he'd kept off for days, buzzed with notifications. Concerned texts from his friend back home warned that people were speculating about his whereabouts. "You need to be careful," one message read. His stomach tightened as he showed his girlfriend the texts. She looked horrified. "I didn't think anyone would figure it out," she said softly, guilt etched across her face. The situation escalated when a small boat arrived at the island the next day. A local had recognized Barron during a quick visit to the village market for supplies. Word spread fast, and now a photographer had shown up, hoping to catch a scoop. From the cabin's window, Barron spotted the figure stepping onto the shore, camera in hand. Panic set in. "We have to leave," he said urgently, grabbing a backpack and stuffing it with essentials. His girlfriend hesitated, but the fear in his eyes convinced her to act quickly. They contacted their trusted friend back home, who began coordinating an emergency exit plan. Another boat was arranged to pick them up from the opposite side of the island, where the dense jungle would provide some cover. Every step felt like a race against time. The couple moved quietly but swiftly, staying low as they navigated through the trees. The tension was palpable. One wrong move could lead the photographer straight to them. For Barron, this wasn't just about escaping the island. It was about protecting the fragile bubble of freedom they had worked so hard to create. As the roar of the rescue boat's engine grew louder in the distance, they knew their secret paradise had been shattered. Now, they could only hope to outrun the storm brewing behind them. The boat ride back to the mainland was quiet, the weight of their adventure heavy in the air. Barron Trump stared out at the horizon, the wind tussling his hair as the waves crashed against the hull. His girlfriend sat beside him, her hand resting on his. They didn't need to speak. The shared glances and occasional squeezes of reassurance said it all. They had made it out, but their brief taste of freedom had come to an end. Returning home felt bittersweet. The comfort of familiar surroundings was undeniable, but so was the return of their old realities. The security team's disapproving glares, the subtle whispers in the media, and the added scrutiny all served as reminders that Barron's life would never be truly private. Yet, amidst the chaos, something had shifted. The escape, though imperfect, had brought him clarity. In the quiet of his room that evening, Barron reflected on the whirlwind of emotions from the past few days. The thrill of slipping away, the joy of being himself without judgment, and even the panic of being discovered, all of it had taught him something important. Privacy wasn't just about staying hidden, it was about having the space to breathe, to grow, and to connect with the people who mattered most. It was a rare gift, one he would have to protect more carefully in the future. His girlfriend joined him, culling up beside him as they talked late into the night. They laughed about their disguises and the last-minute escape through the jungle, but they also spoke about the challenges ahead. She admitted her fears about being a part of his world, the constant attention, the lack of normalcy, but Barron reassured her. "We'll figure it out," he said, his voice steady. "What we have is worth fighting for." As the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains, Barron felt a renewed sense of purpose. The world might always be watching, but that didn't mean he couldn't find moments of freedom. If anything, the adventure had shown him that with careful planning, a little courage, and someone he trusted by his side, even the most impossible dreams could become a reality. And as they shared a quiet smile, one thought lingered between them. This wasn't the end of their escapades. It was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, another adventure awaited, and they would be ready when the time came.